stop being clueless. Son, I am going to speak to you straight, because a father who loves his son does not let him stay blind. Cluelessness is not cute. Cluelessness is not harmless. Cluelessness is a slow death for a man. A clueless man walks through life like he is waiting for someone to tap him on the shoulder and tell him what to do. He reacts instead of decides. He stares at problems instead of solving them. He gets surprised by predictable consequences, then acts like life is unfair. And the world does not respect that. The world punishes it. A man can be kind and still be useless. A man can be nice and still be a burden. And I do not want you to become a burden. Because a burden is not just heavy to others. A burden is heavy to himself. He feels it. He feels it when he cannot fix something. He feels it when he does not know what to say. He feels it when he freezes under pressure. He feels it when his woman looks at him and sees uncertainty. He feels it when he is around competent men and he realizes he is behind. That feeling turns into shame, and shame turns into anger, excuses, and bitterness. So we cut it now. You are going to stop being clueless, not by wishing, by building the habits of a capable man. Let me tell you where cluelessness comes from. It comes from living like a consumer. You wake up, you absorb, you watch, you scroll, you listen, you take, but you do not build, you do not practice, you do not train your brain to solve problems. And the brain is like the body. If you do not train it, it becomes weak. A weak mind avoids effort. A weak mind chooses comfort. A weak mind looks away when responsibility appears. That is how men become clueless. They train avoidance for years. Then, one day, they need competence, and they have none. Son, the world is not going to pause so you can catch up. Life will keep moving. Bills will arrive. People will expect things from you. Your family will need stability. Pressure will come. And in that moment, you will either be a man who can handle it, or you will be a boy with excuses. So listen carefully. A man is not clueless because he does not know everything. A man is clueless because he refuses to learn what he should, because he avoids the discomfort of not knowing. He would rather pretend. He would rather guess. He would rather outsource responsibility to someone else. That is weakness. And weakness spreads. If you are clueless at work, you become replaceable. If you are clueless at home, you become unreliable. If you are clueless in conflict, you become controlled. If you are clueless with money, you become broke. If you are clueless with health, you become fragile. Cluelessness makes a man fragile in every area. And fragile men are not free. They are dependent. Dependent on others, dependent on luck, dependent on circumstances. A man who depends is always at risk, so we build the opposite. We build awareness, we build skill, we build competence, we build calm, because a competent man is calm. He does not panic when something breaks. He does not get emotional when a plan changes. He adapts. That is what you are going to become. Now, I want you to understand something. Being clueless is often a choice, not a conscious choice, but a repeated one. It is choosing not to pay attention, not to ask the extra question, not to look deeper, not to prepare, not to think ahead. A man who does not think ahead is always surprised. He is always late. He is always rushing. He is always apologizing. And apologies without change become disrespectful. So the first thing you do is you start paying attention. Attention is the beginning of competence. Most men walk through their day half asleep. They do the same routines, and they never learn anything from them. They repeat mistakes like it is their job. A father cannot watch his son repeat mistakes forever. So I will give you a clear picture of what competence looks like and what cluelessness looks like. Cluelessness looks like walking into a situation with no information and hoping it works out. Competence looks like preparation. Cluelessness looks like ignoring small issues until they become disasters. Competence looks like handling small issues early. Cluelessness looks like blaming others when things go wrong. Competence looks like asking, "What did I miss and how do I fix it?" Cluelessness looks like being emotional and defensive when corrected. Competence looks like receiving correction and using it. Cluelessness looks like waiting to be told. Competence looks like seeing what needs to be done and doing it. Son, do you see the difference? It is not intelligence, it is ownership. A man becomes competent when he stops seeing life as something happening to him and starts seeing life as something he is responsible for. That is maturity. Now let us talk about the areas where men are most clueless, because this is where you must sharpen yourself. First, your own life. Many men cannot even manage their own day. They wake up and the day owns them. They check their phone and the phone decides their mood. They arrive at work with no plan. They go home and drift. They waste hours, then they tell themselves they had no time. That is cluelessness. A man with a spine runs his day. He sets priorities. He knows what matters. He has a structure, and structure creates freedom. If you are clueless with time, you will be poor in every other area, because time is the currency of everything. So your first job is to stop living randomly. Plan your day, even if the plan is simple. Work, training, tasks, recovery, sleep. A man without a plan is a man waiting to be controlled. Second, money. Son, money is not about greed. Money is about security. A man with no control over money has no control over options. He becomes trapped. He stays in jobs he hates. He cannot protect his family. He cannot invest. He cannot breathe. Clueless men spend without thinking. They do not track. They do not plan. They ignore reality until the debt becomes a monster. A competent man knows exactly where his money goes. He can tell you his bills, his savings, his goals, not because he is obsessed, but because he is disciplined. If you want to stop being clueless, you learn basic finances. Budget, emergency fund, avoid stupid debt, invest over time, live below your means. Those are not adult topics. Those are man topics. Third, health and the body. A man who is clueless about his body becomes fragile. He eats like a child, sleeps like a man with no purpose, never trains, then acts surprised when he feels weak, anxious, and tired. The body and mind are connected. A weak body creates a weak mind. So you train, you learn basic nutrition, you sleep with standards, you become harder to kill, not as an aesthetic, as readiness. Fourth, relationships. A clueless man is controlled in relationships. He does not understand boundaries. He does not know what he wants. He chases attention and then calls it love. He tolerates disrespect because he is afraid to be alone. That is weakness. A competent man has standards. He knows what he will accept. He communicates directly. He leads his life and invites a woman into it. He does not beg. He does not perform. He does not disappear into passive aggression. He handles problems like an adult. That is competence. Fifth, social awareness. This is where many men fail. They do not read the room. They do not understand people. They speak too much, too soon, too emotionally. They share plans before results. They complain. They gossip. They put weakness on display and then wonder why respect is low. Son, people are always reading you. Your posture, your tone, your patience, your calm. They can feel uncertainty. They can feel insecurity. You do not fix that by acting tough. You fix that by becoming capable. Because capability creates real confidence. Now, how do you stop being clueless? You start by doing what clueless men avoid. You start asking questions, not like a child begging, like a man preparing. If you do not understand something at work, you ask. If you do not understand how money works, you study. If you do not understand how to fix something, you learn. You stop being embarrassed about not knowing. Only weak men are embarrassed about being beginners. Strong men become beginners on purpose, because beginners become masters, and masters become leaders. Clueless men want to skip the beginner phase. They want results without learning. That is childish entitlement. Drop it. Son, I want you to develop a habit. When you don't know, you don't pretend. You investigate. You gather information. You test. You learn. Because pretending is how men stay clueless forever. A man who pretends cannot improve because he cannot admit the truth. Truth is the doorway to growth. Now listen, there is another enemy that keeps men clueless. Distraction. A distracted man cannot learn. He cannot focus. He cannot connect dots. His mind is scattered. He reads half a thing, watches half a thing, starts half a project. Then he wonders why he is confused, because he never goes deep. Competence comes from depth. Depth requires silence. Depth requires boredom. Depth requires staying with a problem until you understand it. If your brain cannot tolerate silence, you will stay ignorant. So train silence, train focus, put the phone away, read, write, think, build. Cluelessness disappears when a man starts thinking again. Most men do not think. They react, they consume, they repeat. You are not going to be that man. Now, son, I am going to tell you something important. Being clueless is also tied to humility. Some men are clueless because they are arrogant. They think they already know. They dismiss advice. They ignore correction. They refuse to learn from older men, competent men, men with experience. That arrogance is not strength. It is insecurity. A strong man is humble before truth. If a man who is better than you speaks, you listen. You do not become defensive. You do not make excuses. You take the lesson. Then you apply it. Most men want to be respected, but refuse to be teachable. You cannot have both. Be teachable. Now, I want you to think about the kind of man people rely on. That man is never clueless. When something goes wrong, he does not freeze. He steps forward. He asks the right questions. He simplifies the problem. He takes action. That is what you are building. And it starts with responsibility. Responsibility is not a burden. Responsibility is power. Because when you accept a responsibility, you gain control. When you refuse responsibility, you lose control. Clueless men refuse responsibility. They say, "That's not my job. That's not my problem. That's too hard. I don't know." And they stay children. A man says, "I will figure it out." That sentence alone separates you from most men. I will figure it out. Not, I hope someone fixes it. Not, I need someone to save me. I will figure it out. That is a man's language, and it becomes real when you back it with action. Now, I am going to give you a hard truth. People do not respect potential. They respect competence. You can be full of dreams, but if you cannot execute basic tasks, you are not worth following. Your wife will not respect potential. Your boss will not pay potential. Your children will not feel safe under potential. They will feel safe under competence. Competence is security. So, become secure, become useful, become the man who can solve problems, become the man who can carry weight, not because it is glamorous, because it is necessary. Now let me talk to you about pressure. Pressure is where clueless men collapse. They get overwhelmed by small things. They panic, they lash out, they shut down, because they have never trained thinking under stress. So you train it. When something goes wrong, you slow down. You breathe, you assess, you ask, what is the next right step? Then you take it. You do not have to solve everything at once. Clueless men try to swallow the whole problem. Competent men take the next step. One step creates momentum. Momentum creates clarity. Clarity creates solutions. Now, son, you are going to have moments when you feel behind. Good. That pain is useful if you use it. Do not numb it. Do not distract it away. Let it push you. Let it teach you. Let it sharpen you. A man who uses discomfort becomes stronger. A man who runs from discomfort stays clueless. So lean into the discomfort of learning. Lean into the discomfort of being corrected. Lean into the discomfort of effort. That is where competence is forged. Now I will bring this to a close, and I want you to remember this. A man who is clueless is not just ignorant, he is irresponsible. Because ignorance can be fixed, but refusing to learn is a choice. So choose differently. Choose to be the man who pays attention. Choose to be the man who prepares. Choose to be the man who asks, who learns, who improves. Choose to be the man who can be trusted. Because trust is built on competence, and competence is built on repetition. Small daily learning, small daily execution, small daily standards. You do not become competent in a week. You become competent by refusing to stay incompetent. That is the difference. So starting today, you will stop being the man who shrugs. You will stop being the man who says, "I don't know," and stays there. You will become the man who says, "I don't know yet." Yet. That word changes everything. It means you are on the path. It means you are building. It means you have a spine. Stop being clueless. Become useful. Become capable. Become calm. Become the man who can handle life. Because life does not reward clueless men. It uses them, and then it discards them. You are not here to be used. You are here to build. Now go learn something. Then go apply it.